They say Christmas is a time for family, for warmth, and for forgiveness. But what happens when the people you're supposed to love the most show you just how little they care? What happens when generosity is met with destruction and cruelty hides behind laughter? This story isn't about presents under a tree. It's about the moment a parent looked at their child, heartbroken on the floor, and made a choice. It begins like this. My sister and I, we've always had a strained relationship. Not explosive, not dramatic, just heavy, cold. One of those relationships where you bite your tongue again and again just to keep the peace. Where you give more than you should because you're family. Because that's what good people do, right? We both have sons. Hers is 13. Mine just turned 11. For his birthday this year, I saved up, scrimped, cut corners, and finally bought my son the new gaming system he'd been dreaming about. The kind of gift a kid remembers for the rest of his life. His eyes lit up. He held it like it was made of gold. And from that day on, it became his world, his joy, his reward for doing well, for being kind, for growing up right. Now, here's the thing about my sister. She's bad with money. Not just, oh, times are tough, bad. I mean chronically, catastrophically irresponsible. And somehow, it always lands on me to pick up the pieces. Her bills, her groceries, her son's school supplies. I do it quietly, without thanks, without even expectation. I know her boy doesn't always have the best holidays, so for once, I wanted to do something just for him, a surprise, a kindness. I bought a second gaming system, same model, same excitement. I wrapped it carefully, silver paper, neat corners, a tag with his name on it. It sat under my Christmas tree, waiting. Then came the visit. My sister brought her family over yesterday. The kids were excited, laughing. My son came up to me with a hopeful look and asked if they could go upstairs to play video games. Of course, I said. Be careful, I added. Please. About 30 minutes later, I heard something that didn't sound like laughter. It was crying. My son came running, tears down his face, gasping for air, not from pain, but from something worse. Shock, confusion, betrayal. He led me to the front hall, hands shaking. And there, at the bottom of the stairs, was the shattered shell of his gaming system. Someone had thrown it from the upper floor. The casing cracked, pieces broken, wires twisted like a corpse. I stared, disbelieving. That kind of damage. It wasn't an accident. I looked at my son, his voice barely a whisper as he pointed at his cousin, his own blood. I turned to my nephew and asked, "Did you do this?" And he laughed. He laughed, said it was a stupid baby toy, that he'd seen people break them online, as if that made it funny. As if watching my son fall to the floor, trying to put the pieces back together, was some kind of performance art. I stood there, frozen, my throat tight, my son's fingers moving gently over plastic shards, like he could will it back to life. Then my sister walked in. I told her what happened, calmly at first. I explained this was an expensive gift, that her son needed to be held accountable, that this wasn't some harmless prank. She laughed too. She said I should have been supervising them, said I was a bad parent, said he'll get over it, and then added that the system wasn't important anyway. I stared at her. Not a single apology, no remorse, no attempt to make it right. In that moment, watching my son sit on the floor, crushed not by the loss of a toy, but by the knowledge that someone he trusted had destroyed it on purpose, I felt something break inside me. I walked to the Christmas tree, and I grabbed the gift, the one meant for my nephew. I peeled off the paper, pulled off the ribbon, and handed it, without a word, to my son. "Go set it up," I said. He looked at me like I'd just given him the world back. My sister's eyes narrowed. "Why are you making such a big deal?" she snapped. "You had another one." I looked at her, and I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I'd finally had enough. "That was your son's Christmas present," I said. "If it's just a baby toy and not important, then he won't miss it." And I asked them to leave. My nephew realized what had happened. His eyes welled up. He cried, saying my son stole his gift. I told him no, that the one he smashed, that was his. And then I closed the door. Now my phone won't stop ringing. Cousins, aunts, people I haven't heard from in months are calling to tell me I'm cruel, that I ruined my nephew's Christmas, that I humiliated them. No one asks about my son. No one asks what it felt like for him to sit on the floor, cradling the pieces of something he loved, while the person who broke it laughed in his face. They say I should buy a new system, that I'm the adult, that I need to fix this. But here's the truth. I don't have that kind of money, and even if I did, I wouldn't spend it on rewarding that kind of behavior. My nephew is 13. He knew what he was doing. He wasn't a toddler with sticky fingers. He was a teenager, jealous and spiteful, who thought hurting someone else would make him feel better. And when his mother defended him, when she made excuses, I realized he learned that cruelty is acceptable, that destruction has no cost, that other people's pain doesn't matter. I'm not punishing him. I'm protecting my son. And maybe, just maybe, trying to teach my nephew a lesson no one else will. So, am I the asshole? Wow. This is one of those stories that doesn't just stay in your head. It lands in your gut. And look, the gaming system isn't really the point. It's about respect, boundaries, about what we owe each other, especially in families. Here, we have a parent doing what so many parents are afraid to do. Say no, draw a line, protect their child, even if it costs them relationships. And that's brave. Because saying no to toxic behavior, especially when it's wrapped in the guilt trip ribbon of family, is hard. It's easier to cave, to keep the peace, to hand over that second gaming system and swallow the injustice. But sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is show your child that their pain matters, that their heart isn't disposable, and that someone will stand up for them, even when the rest of the world says, "Let it go." To the audience, what would you have done? Would you have given your son the new system? Would you have tried to keep the peace for the sake of the holidays? Or do you believe, like the parent in this story, that some lines deserve to be drawn in bold red? Let us know in the comments. And remember, being kind doesn't mean being silent. Being generous doesn't mean being a doormat. And sometimes, the best gift you can give your child is the lesson that they are worth standing up for. This is AITA Story Vault. Thanks for listening.